Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Oliver Normanton, and I'm the Desktop Product Manager here at Avenza Systems, responsible for the product development of MAPublisher and Geographic Imager. In today's presentation, I want to show a couple of things that we've been working on for both MAPublisher and Geographic Imager, and provide some transparency to the desktop roadmap so that you can get an idea of what we want to add to the products in the near future. For those of you who are not familiar with Avenza's desktop products, I wanted to do some brief background and speak about the upcoming releases of each product. MAPublisher is a plugin for Adobe Illustrator that allows cartographers and graphic designers to create stunning maps with a host of useful tools, all whilst maintaining your data's spatial referencing and attributes within Illustrator. In the next version of MAPublisher, we will be adding batch knockouts, which is an update to the existing Create Knockouts tool that has been widely requested for some time. We will be taking a look at this new tool in action very shortly. We will also be bringing a couple of user-suggested enhancements to our Vector Base Maps tool. Users will be able to import vector base maps into custom shapes and also import vector tiles from custom vector tile sources. Avenza's second desktop application is Geographic Imager. Geographic Imager is a spatial imagery plugin for Adobe Photoshop that gives you the power of Photoshop's image editing capabilities and allows you to apply it to geospatial workflows. In the next version of Geographic Imager, we will be introducing our new Export Contours tool that I will be showing you in a demo today. Other improvements that will be coming to Geographic Imager in the near future are updates to the NITF format. NITF metadata is now retained on export, certain values can be edited, and we now have broader support for extended metadata. Users can now also apply JPEG compression when saving to NITF. With the context out of the way, I'm going to jump right into the products. I've tried to construct a workflow that links both of the things that I want to show you today, and we're starting in Geographic Imager with a digital elevation model of Glacier National Park in Montana, United States. So you join me here in Geographic Imager, where I've imported my two DMs and mosaicked them into one image. So there is now a little bit of preparation I need to do to get ready for the vector contours. I'm going to start by cropping my image down to my Illustrator artboard extents using the GeoCrop tool. I'm going to go ahead and select Crop by Vector File Extents and select my vector file that I exported from MAPublisher that gives me the extents of my artboard there. So I'm going to click OK, and it's going to crop my document down to size. Now at this stage I could do things like create terrain shade, which you'll see in the final map, but for this demonstration we're going to jump directly into the Export Contours tool. In this build, the tool is accessed from the File menu, but when this version releases, we will have made some changes to the toolbar, and it will also be accessible from there as well. So you can see here that we have a few options to look at. The first allowing you to set the interval between contour lines. If I leave this set at 100 meters, the contours it will generate will be at 100, 200, 300 meters, etc. It is also worth noting that the tool will detect the unit of the DEM automatically, and this information is displayed at the top of the dialog. The next is the base contour offset. This will allow you to offset the value from which the intervals will be determined. For this demo, I think 100 meter intervals will be appropriate, and we'll leave the base contour offset at 0. You can also set the name of the attribute that will contain the elevation value of the contour lines. We also have an option to add contours to the document as paths. This will allow you to visually check the output of your image and determine if you are happy with the settings. These settings will not have an effect on your exported contour lines. They are only in place to make sure that you can visually inspect the output in Geographic Imager. I'm using combined paths by same elevation here, but there are a couple of extra options available. We offer a range of vector formats for the contour output. There will be a few differences in settings depending on the option you choose. I'm going to go ahead and select shapefile for our export today, and then overwrite an export I did earlier. I can then set my export path and right click on OK to export to my specified location, the contours will then load and show you what has just been exported to the destination folder. I like the look of these contours, but if I thought my interval value was a little off, I can undo the operation, tweak my settings and run it again, replacing the export until I was happy. I'm now going to hop over to my map in MAPublisher and continue the demonstration there. So now that I've exported my necessary elements from Geographic Imager, I'm ready to bring them over to my map here in MAPublisher. So the first thing I'm going to do is toggle on the terrain shaded image that I created using the digital elevation model we saw just earlier in Geographic Imager. You can see this has a profound effect on the sort of styling of my map. And then I'm going to go ahead and import our vector contours that we're able to generate just a moment ago. And we're going to bring them in. You can see that they're already in the correct coordinate system, so they're going to be able to be added straight into my map view. And now all I have to do is reorder my layers here to bring that to a suitable position in my layer order. And now we're just about ready to label these contours. And I also want to point out right now what a profound effect just these two things have had on my map here. So now it's time to prep my map for labeling. To do this, I'm going to open up the attribute table and take a look at my contour layer attributes. You can see that there are too many decimal places to label them as they are now. So I'm going to remove those extra decimal places by opening my attribute schema and just setting the decimal places to 0. Click OK, and now they look a lot better. So now we're ready to label, and in this demonstration I'm going to use our Map Contour Tagger tool. To use this tool, there are a few settings that I need to configure by double-clicking on the icon in the advanced toolbar on the left side of my screen. So I first have to find our contour line layer in the list here. I set the attribute that we'll be using for labeling to elevation, and I set the target output layer as a text layer I created earlier called contour labels, and then use my pre-configured character style. We then have a few options for labeling lines down below. I want the labels to follow my line and create point text. I've also enabled reverse right to left paths because a lot of the time contour lines will loop over each other. For example, around a feature such as a lake, and text will be placed upside down. This option will automatically correct that. So I'm going to click OK in my dialog and zoom into a suitable place on my map for some contour labels, and I can simply click and drag over the contour lines to create my labels. Now that we have some contour labels in position, I would like to introduce you to the new rework of the Create Knockouts tool. I would like to start by providing some context and background. Create Knockouts is a tool that allows you to mask parts of features that may be covered by things like text or points. The aim is to increase the visibility and readability of certain features, and this is usually done in places where things overlap or look a little cluttered. In the current version of the Create Knockouts tool, knockouts are created for a single dialog where you specify the settings of your knockouts as well as the layers you want to mask your features on. One of the major limitations is that you can only create knockouts around one text or point layer at a time, so if you want to have knockouts on several different layers, you need to run several operations, specifying the settings each time. If you made a mistake and wanted to edit the knockout, the only way to make the changes is to clear all the knockouts from that layer and start again, which could be rather frustrating and time-consuming. In the next version of MAPublisher, we will be releasing the new version of the Create Knockouts tool, where we have improved the overall architecture to generate knockouts by running jobs and rules. The jobs define which layers are being masked and which rules to use for forming the knockouts, and the rules define the overall appearance of your knockouts and which layers to form the knockouts around. As you can see here, I already have a couple of jobs set up in my document. The main rule that applies to this job is set to knock out our contour labels, and the method I have selected is to create knockout boxes. There are also options here to allow you to set up a specific buffer or to set a limit cap to the height. The other two rules that you see listed here pertain to my second job, and we'll be running these as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at that job now. So here in my second job, you can see that I'm going to be knocking out all area, line, and image layers in the document. This means that I'll be able to knock things out right down to my artboard. You can see that I'm applying this to my point symbols and the text associated with those symbols. Taking a look at the rules for this, I'm setting the shape layer as my point labels and using the text and symbol shape knockouts method. Below, you're able to set the amount of detail that you would like around the text and symbols. With these options set, I can select them all to run them at the same time. By defining jobs and rules, not only can you generate knockouts on multiple layers by running multiple jobs, but they are also stored within your Illustrator document, so you can easily edit and save your knockout settings to use again at a later time without having to reset them, and you can send the document to other people who will also see the same jobs and rules. This feature works very well with a variety of symbols, fonts, stylization, effects, stroke types, and type tools, such as type on a path and vertical type. In this presentation, I've shown a common use case of creating knockouts, mainly masking lines, area, and image layers, but you're not limited to those 3 layer types. Create knockouts works with all 6 of our map layer types. So as you can see, knockout processing has completed, and we're able to see that our map symbols and contour labels have been knocked out. The contour lines were knocked out relative to the labels to improve the readability, and the symbols and their associated text were knocked out all the way to the artboard. This gives them the white halo effect. This makes them stand out a lot more against all of the other things going on with our map. One of the great things about this implementation is that the knockout effects are live within the document now. If there's an aspect of the settings you don't like and want to make changes to, you don't have to delete things and run again. You can open the dialog back up and all of your jobs and rules are waiting for you. Let's open this up and make some changes. Perhaps we want less or more detail around our symbols, or in this case, I'm going to modify our buffer size slightly. We can make these changes and then run the selected job again to apply it to the document. Another thing that you may have noticed is that when looking at a job and its table of rules, there is a lack of an option to delete the rules. This is simply because rules can apply to more than one job, and in my example, it was necessary to include rules I had written from another job to achieve my desired result, and deleting these could affect other jobs. There is a separate dialog to manage rules. You can see what jobs a rule might apply to, and from here you're able to remove them if necessary. I would like to close today's presentation with a quick look into some of the items that make up the MAPublisher roadmap and what kind of functionality we would like to bring to the software in the future. The first on the list here is a project we've wanted to implement for a really long time. The currently named Map Atlas tool will allow users to automate their Atlas creation workflows by taking a finished map product and splitting it apart into pages based upon a pre-selected coverage layer. The resulting maps can then be easily published in a variety of ways, including to the Avenza Map Store and to Geospatial PDF. Users will also be able to utilize a new file utility tool that enables you to conduct operations over multiple Adobe Illustrator documents. The rest of the items on the list is functionality that we would like to go back and look at in order to update and or modernize. I hope you guys are as excited for these future changes as I am, and I cannot wait to see the maps that you will create with these tools. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. It's a genuine pleasure to be able to develop these tools for you, and if you have any thoughts about the presentation or what you've seen today, I would love to hear from you. Thank you very much.